Yo, it's your boy. Let's do this. What do we got going on? News, roundup. It's been 2 weeks, plus upcoming crowdfunding, a little bit of everything else in between. The hotness. And can you declare a game of the year? A game of the year when you're barely halfway through the year in the first place? Yes, you can, because, right? The top 10 lists of the year will probably be coming out next month for all I know. You ready? And, well, Gamefound got a new homepage. Let's talk. Okay, I'm starting with something that I didn't even throw in the teaser there, but did you hear about this one? Board Game Wire talked about it, and Board Game Revolution, their ad-based, let anyone pay money to sponsor or throw in links ad nauseum Facebook group, got scammed. Not them, actually, but someone was posing. They're posing as someone else from the group, and they got a couple companies to send them review copies randomly, like completely different states too. So they're pursuing legal action as well. They should, because screw you, man. Not you, but the people who are scamming, right? That's not cool, right? The fact that we even have to say that people thought that, hey, this is a good idea, right? You think you can get away with it. That's essentially what it is. People who steal packages. Same line of thinking. Say what you will. So we'll start with that. Then let's go Gamefound, right? I talked about it in the roundup a little bit yesterday. What do you think of Gamefound's new homepage? I mean, this is a whole separate dedicated video if I really want to as a whole. But, truth be told, it's kind of nicer. And it kind of just reminds me of the cluster F that is Board Game Geek as a whole, right? Just how interfacey you can make it. And at the same time, we have a real problem here because I think there's some maybe good intention behind it. At the same time, it kind of cheeses me off. What am I talking about? Well, let's just pull up the page. So, I mean, this is what we're talking about, right? Like, okay, here's the campaigns. No one cares. You get the spotlight. No one cares about that. You can sort by a type, going again, Board Game Geek, just all of this stuff. I don't even know what half this stuff is, helpful for, terrain building, tower defense, digital, anyway, economics. So they really break it down there. And again, there's like sort of just whatever thrown wherever, crowdfunding, upcoming, pledging, done pledging, late pledging, super pledging, store pledging, anything along those lines, right? And this is where I get to the issue down here, right? It's not, that this isn't or couldn't be helpful, right? Okay, hey guys, this is kind of a quagmire stuff. And can you tell what's going on? No, you can't. So you know what? Let's stratify it down here a little bit for you so you can kind of tell what's our hotness. I mean, this is essentially the Gamefound hotness, if you will, which if you know Board Game Geek, right? There's an algorithm. And guess what? The algorithm isn't to help you as a consumer. It's not. It's to help them from a marketing buying standpoint. Again, there's some tempering to that, obviously, of course, but it's still, right? The issue I have with it right here, right, is that what you're calling it in the upper left-hand corner right here, we'll highlight it. Rankings! It's becoming a competition, right? At what point are campaigns going to be trying to incentivize their backers or their followers or their pre-campaign followers? Just like the Board Game Geek Awards do when people get nominated for those Board Game Geeks, those yearly awards. All of a sudden you see all publishers throw out these emails saying, go over and thumb it, go over and click it, go over and click it, go over and click it. How soon are you going to see goals, launch boom-esque features incorporated from this standpoint? That's my fear. Because, again, this is nice. Maybe he has a hard time getting those words out of his mouth when he's saying that at this point. But really, I don't think this is anything more than more complicated, more, window dressing marketing, right? Rankings by funding. I know Kickstarter has that too. The most popular all-time funded things as a whole. Audience gives you a different way of stratifying, but again, this is just another feature, another one of these funded in X percentage funded. Come back it because it's hot, not because you actually think it's right for you from that aspect of things. So that's my fear. That's my fear with this. And you can tell me if in the comment section that I'm unfounded and it's not going to turn into that. And you can sort by category and whatever you want there too, but it screams to me like we're just going to ride the hype train and we're going to try and get people on the hype train that are looking to be on the hype train because you don't want to be left out. The grass is greener, neighbor getting it and you not style of things. And that's what I fear. Because essentially that's all the Hotness is. The Hotness is just on Board Game Geek there to get you, buying the stuff that, or linking to the stuff that's already super popular. So that's a whole nother issue. But let's segue into sort of a pseudo Hotness here. Arcs, right? Like I said it. I said what I said, right? Like, best ever game to come out in 2024, right? And I was like, oh, okay. And then I was like, wait, did I Rip Van Winkle this? What month is it right now? Oh, it's July. It's just barely in July while I'm on vacation. And why this concerns me, again, is not that people can't say these things. If this is the way they truly feel, I am really happy for them, because that means it's something they love. And I am always happy to see someone love something so much. No shade being thrown at anyone labeling anything like that. My concern is that it also touches on the other side of the hobby I'd like touching on my channel in general. Is this ever-growing, never ceasing hype train cycle that inevitably is just getting more and more and more from all aspects. I'm going to compare it to the top 10 best of the years sort of thing, right? Every year, those rankings come out earlier and earlier because all it is it's a Hotness clicking thing. It is. Say what you will, right? It's like the first one, whoever breaks the seal in mid-November, because that's what it was last year, and basically anything between like November and February just gets ignored. The other piece of news that we have is Game Nerdz is doing their Game Nerdz Day at the end of August this year, right? Again, I have mixed feelings on this, right? Because it strikes me as one of the bigger problems I have that I talk about rather infrequently, or frequently, depending on how much you watch me talk. Because it just reminds me of like Amazon Prime Day, right? Good deals! Deals! People clicking on stuff, refreshing on stuff, trying to buy stuff because it's a good deal. Again, just the rampant consumerism, capitalism, sort of buy it because you can, rather than, right, all around me, that you already have, that you're not playing already. And it's not even like people are looking at it and going, this is the one game on my wish list that they are having on sale that I have been waiting for, right? It's not even that. It's just sheer, you know what? That game I never liked, never had any thought of, or never was really interested in is on sale for 50% off. So I might as well buy it. Dopamine rush. FOMO, grass is greener. I got it and you don't, sort of style of things. And that pisses me off, right? And that's, I guess, what ties into the comments earlier about arcs. It's not that I care whether or not you get it. I care the most on this channel, the most on you buying games that are right for you. And if I feel like something is going to lead you to not look out for yourself as a consumer myself, that's what really grinds my gears, right? And I'm allowed to say that, I think, unless I'm not, because other people like to tell me what I'm allowed to and not allowed to say all the time. That's the kind of the basis of being online, right? A couple games just of note more than anything else. Do you remember that game So You've Been Eaten by Scott Almes? The 0, 1, or 2 player game that you could play AI versus AI, or solo versus AI, or player versus player. Well, Scott Almes went over to Ludicreations and said, did you like that? So I might have something more for you. So here it was what it is. So do you see what I'm doing here? So you've been cursed is where I'm going with this. And it's a wizarding business-based game. All you know is that, there's a bunch of bones lying around and you're a wizard and something ate a bunch of stuff monster-wise, and, you need to figure out what it was. If it was you, if it was something else, or, deal with it and before time is up. And so you got another 1 versus 1 situation going on there. I have no idea. I mean, again, one of those dream games, pipe dream games of where, this might be appealing as a 2-player game to play with my wife, but honestly, like, I need to see the mechanisms before, It's going to show me what's going on as you're finding a cure before you permanently turn into a monster, essentially. So that's up number 1. And then, you know, are you a fan of Sanderson, as in Brandon Sanderson? Hey, guess what? We're getting a Stormlight Archive game. Nope, just kidding. Sorry. I couldn't help but tease you there. Actually, we're getting a Mistborn deck building game. So we already have a Mistborn-esque game in terms of miniatures, but now we're getting it from Brotherwise and John DeClaire. Okay. 1 to 4 players, so stepping outside the unstoppable bubble, and we're going back to that world, and we're going to see how you deck build to burn metals and activate the cards that is the essential magic system of, well, Mistborn in the first place. Metal has its own strengths, damaging opponents, points, and manipulation. Multiple ways to win. Defeat your opponents, though, and that's the keyword description there from the Board Game Geek side of things, because it appears maybe it's head-to-head, but also maybe cooperative, because the sentence after that says, complete a series of perilous missions before your enemies do. So is that like enemies, other players? Is that enemies like bad guys you're going up against, like an Automa style of things? Play head-to-head against your friends, or take on the Lord Ruler in solo or co-op play. There's your answer to your question if I just would have read a line down further. Anyway, I don't know. I mean, I wish it was a Stormlight Archive, you know, situation, but you won't see any of that stuff anytime soon, probably until he finishes that series, and that's, you know, probably going to finish before George R. Martin even gets the Winds of Winter out. By the way, did you see his post on that? He's like, I don't have a clue when that's coming out yet, guys. He posted over like this past week. Anyway, that's not why you tune in. You don't want to hear me rant and rave about the Game of Thrones fiasco, since I've been reading it since I was like 16. And then the other one that just kind of caught my eye from Deep Print Games, Lumacora. Sort of like a reef version, pretty version of underwater coral in the oceans, where you're, well, creating your own ecosystem a la the reefs. And, well, as a result of global warming, you got to protect them. 3-dimensional tile laying game, planning, timing, color based. I don't know, looks kind of cool. And it just gives me a little bit of those lighter vibes. How is it going to compare? Is it going to be that much more interesting? Is it going to be better? Is it going to be worse? What's the time frame? No idea. But it was one of those that caught my eye as slowly we're already seeing previews and the thumbing of things like Gen Con and those ilks going forward. So expect to see a lot more of that, because I'm getting publisher emails all the time saying, hey, are you coming to Gen Con? We'd love to meet with you. I don't know why I went with a sort of old cowboy accent there. I just kind of went with it, and it just kind of flowed. I had a boss who used to, he was Indian, and he used to just go up to people that we were seeing, and he would just start talking to them in random accents as we were seeing them. And just completely, he was also a side comedian, and he was also a comedian on the side, right? Side comedian, who says that? And so it was like part of his shtick, but like he got away with it, and because it was, people thought it was entertaining, and I never could do that. I don't have the personal skills to do something like that, or the sheer, I just can't do it factor. So anyway, what do we got going on? We got upcoming crowdfunding this week as well, and then we'll get back to the formality of the hotness, because the upcoming crowdfunding is going to be a little bit all over the place. One of the games coming up this week I actually have a copy of, and I'm going to be having a video hopefully out on the day it launches, and that's Yonder from Sinister Fish, as a fantasy style worker placement with a little bit of a twist in the lines of Moon and Villages along their other one-named games. So does that appeal to you? I mean, we don't have any like lighter themed fantasy games in the worker placement style of things, right? It's really like Lords of Waterdeep, if you want to make an argument, maybe like Champions of Midgard, but like everything fantasy wise of like high fantasy elves and dwarves and whatever else, dragons, it's like dark, kill them, you know, take them over, area control, destroy, RPG, dungeon crawl-esque, right? And so just something a little bit lighter, something a little bit more whimsical is kind of appealing just from that aspect. But, you know, with Sinister Fish, their previous have been a little bit of a discounted price more than anything else, and a little bit of luxification, as I'm looking at Moons behind the camera and the, you know, light over on that side of the TV. I'm doing really well tonight, you know? That's what you get for filming it late at night. But that's going to be the question, and they put out solid stuff. The other one that is going to go head to head with, well, the two others, I guess I should say, both of these were actually, all three of these were in my top of July to be on your radar. One, Luthier from Patterson Games. I just put out my review of Distilled earlier in the week, which I was like, okay, this is, I understood why Distilled was on people's top 10 lists. It's probably a little bit too long and a little bit too complicated for it to hit regular rotation in my sort of, well, house. And that's the biggest issue I have with it. I mean, I don't have a whole lot of complaints. I know why people don't like it. It's super tactical. Like, strategy just goes completely out the window, right? You're constantly adapting to what is literally in front of you in the marketplaces, as well as the, spirits that you can build or buy, as well as just, sort of how you pull from the random deck of the distilling action mechanism. But this is going to be the follow-up to it. So this is going to be the big test. Are people going to like this one in a classical musical-based situation with a worker placement sort of hitting, bidding, I believe, style? And is it, lightning strikes twice for Paverson? So we'll see. This one, I think, has a lot of hype written all over it. I haven't seen a whole lot over the last week or so, but I'm guessing that you're going to see a whole bunch of content here in the next 2 or 3 days when it explodes on the crowdfunding on Tuesday. And that's going to be the interesting test, and we'll kind of see where it goes, because it's probably, I would argue, one of the slightly heavier games with more recognition that we've seen all year long. So will that do better than some of the other heavier-esque games from a worker placement or Euro style that we've seen already in 2024? Then the third one in this series is Lucky Duck, and they're going with the Flames of Fanir, and they're burninating the town, essentially, because it's a tower defense game. But this is going to be the other aspect, and I don't know. I haven't seen any content on it, and I really want to read a rule book on this to know how are you going to do a trader or semi-cooperative nature with this game as someone joining the dragon side of things and doing a semi-one versus all. I don't know. I'm all for a marble-based, slightly dexterous, upgradable tower defense game. I mean, that sounds like fantastic. Give me Fireball Eye and the good stuff from that and the good stuff from a tower defense and smash them together with a dragon that's probably going to be cost efficiently pricing me out of getting it in the first place, because I'm not a huge fan of things like that in the Everdell tree. So we'll see, but I mean, that's going to be the question. And I like it that it's not requiring an app. I'm not a huge anti-app person, but I also just like when games don't have apps. So that's cool too. And I'd like to see what else they're going for, But again, I think this one screams, give me a rule book, so I can really see how that mechanic is going to evolve. Is it necessary? Can you have it not be part of things and still get a full dynamic gameplay? Is it more Dead of Winter? Is it more Marvel Legendary, where people are like, you know what? I just kind of toss that baby out with the bathwater style of things as well, and I just ignore it. Well, you can do that, but you know what? I kind of don't like doing that, especially if that is a main feature of the game, like Marvel Legendary, right? It's a win or lose. The person with the most points ends the real winner. No, it's I play cooperatively, period. We either win, we lose. And so otherwise it turns into a not fun as scenario. And that's what I worry about with something like this. But I'm willing to give it a look-see, because again, tower defense games are hard to come by that do something good and unique. And so I want to see kind of what can be done with that. So that is the third big one up on the crowdfunding sort of week at large. So let's go back to the hotness here for a second. Let's go back to the hotness, because we talked about arcs. Defenders of the Wild is in the process of being delivered. This is one of my favorite cooperative games from last year from Outlandish Games. And again, I think they've got something Spirit Island-esque, lighter, easier to teach style vibe going on. And I think people are really going to like it. I think it's going to surprise people. But again, as I said in my video when I covered it, it's also not going to be for everyone. There is some randomness there. There is some, potential, you just kind of get screwed on some of these games. And so it's not going to be Spirit Island-esque where you can totally mitigate. And how do you feel about that? So we'll see. Windmill Valley is one of the latest ones that's going to be slightly Euro-esque from Board and Dice. Their latest hotness, I think that's coming out in the next month or two. That's going to be making circuit rounds at some of the conventions, I'm sure. And we'll kind of see what entails of that in the near future. So that's sitting there. Brink, which I covered in the roundup from yesterday's video as well, from Ivy Studios. Again, mixed feelings on it, not because it's not a good game, but just because some of the mechanisms, as I said in my video, are going to be divisive. And if you go into this saying, I'm just going to like this, I'm just going to like their games, I'm just going to like Stonemeyer's games, I'm just going to like Chip Theory's games, I'm just going to like X's games because I like X's games, this is going to potentially be a miss for you because it's doing stuff differently. You have a lot of hidden bidding in terms of the mechanics. You've got some power scaling that you're dealing with in terms of scoring your victory points at the end of each of the 3 rounds. And you've got a couple divisive elements just in terms of the placement, as well as the big negotiating style of things where half the resources you might get on a turn, you have to trade away, otherwise you're going to lose them. And so do you trade for pennies on the dollar? Do you end up with a Catan situation where someone doesn't like you and they metagame you against, and there's nothing you can do about it, and it becomes a little bit more style of that? And is your group dynamic going to be good for that in the first place? Those are the questions you have to ask yourself. See, I don't know where I'm going with this anymore. Word style jumble salad. I'm not stroking. Don't worry about it. style of game. So there's that. And then the only other one that's really kind of on the hotness is Gigamic's loot game, gathering resources, capturing buildings to help your fjord, and, you know, placing Vikings, capturing buildings, building buildings, long ships, shields, all of those sorts of things. You place all your stuff, you calculate your points out. I don't know. I'm not going to give you any more of a summary than that, because the rest of the crowdfunding actually is somewhat interesting as well, too, on the hotness. Because Deep Regrets, I also covered that in the crowdfunding roundup yesterday as sort of a press your luck, get more crazy, get more mad, a la Cthulhu Death May Die, go from fair to foul fish and press your luck and try not to get the most regrets, because otherwise you're going to lose some endgame scoring in the first place as a mitigation. 20 Strong with their Tanglewoods campaign is going hot and heavy over on Gamefound with the red, white, and yellow decks. So you can check that out, because the red rulebook as well is in addition present already, which again, I will criticize them when they don't have it out, and I will kudos them when they do. So thank you for at least having that one out when the campaign launched. But do you want a slightly different, and again, like as they say on the page, gotta catch 'em all? Or they didn't say that. I'm pseudo, paraphrasing in that sense. But that's kind of what they put on the page. Like, get all of them, because you're going to play all of them equally, and you're going to love all of them equally, because that's what you do with all expansions for all games that you buy many of, right? You know, that's my issue. Again, buy more to save more, right? Great price, but more than what you may get otherwise. So take that for what you will. And again, never a lack of people willing to shell out $800 for a strategist pledge from that style. I know, $750. Someone's going to comment in the comment section down below. That's still a lot of money to get games that may not behoove you. It's just putting that out there. So that's going on as well. Weirdwood Manor is another one of the big cooperatives that I covered last year, is in the process of delivering. Harmonies is still somewhere in the nethers. I can't get a copy because it's out of stock everywhere. And, well, you know, I covered. So that's clearly the reason Brass Birmingham is on the hotness. No, it's just because Brass Birmingham's the number one game. And so the number one games, the number two games always tend to stay on the hotness regardless, because that's also where Board Game Geek can get some good clickage. But, you know, I did talk about it in the second half of 2024's upcoming crowdfunding videos, is that there is going to be a Brass sequel, potentially Q4, from Roxley. So we'll see what they have entail. And so how do you feel about that style of things? Is that going to change your mind? Is that going to re-implement too much of a good thing, or just a perfect amount to entice you, even if you are a Brass or Brass-esque lover in the first place? So that's it. That's pretty much the whole news video this week. I could go into a bunch of other stuff tangentially, but I have some other stuff to film, play, and take care of. So I got to get a couple reviews out this coming week, because I'm behind on reviews. I am significantly behind on reviews. I have a few mea culpas, and I need to get those taken and squared away. So that's what I got going on, because I am off this weekend, and then I'm working the following one again, because that's how life goes in circles. Whew. Okay. Stay classy. Have a great freaking day. And you know what? This week, maybe besides a review or two, other things to look forward to in the second half of 2024, and other things we need to talk about from the first half, the best of the first half of 2024. And, you know, if I get lucky this weekend, maybe I'll get filming some of the July look back so we can critique how badly we crowdfunded in the past, right? That's always fun. Dagger to the heart. Boom shakalaka. NBA Jam. Peace out. Have a great freaking fantastic weekend. Thanks for watching.